say good afternoon to everyone. My name is Jim Joseph, Dean of the Madden School of Business and Special Assistant to the President. Welcome to the combined March 2021 Lemoyne Diversity Central and Spring 2021 Madden Lecture. The mission of Lemoyne's Diversity Central is to place diversity-focused events front and center on the first Wednesday of each month. Diversity Central emphasizes the centrality of diversity and equity to our life together as a community. Madden, a business school with a heart and soul, seeks to develop reflective individuals with an innovative spirit who fulfill their potential as leaders, both locally and globally, embodying the Jesuit values of integrity, compassion, and service to others. For the first time in Lemoyne's history, Diversity Central and the Madden Lecture joined together as one impactful event. And we cannot think of a better partnership as we embark together on a journey toward greater diversity, equity, inclusivity, and racial justice. This afternoon's lecture is entitled Black Buck, The Art of Reinvention. And it is an honor to have New York Times bestselling author Mateo Askaripour as our speaker this afternoon. Welcome, Mateo. You've been with us for a couple of classes already this afternoon, and you lit the students on fire.
In a good way, I hope.
Very good way, in a very Ignatian way, Mateo.
Good.
With us this afternoon, Lemoyne's president, Dr. Linda Lemira, Lemoyne's provost and future president of the University of Scranton, Father Joe Morena, and incoming provost, Jim Hannon. And speaking of the University of Scranton, a warm welcome to a number of their students who have joined us today. We also have students from no less than 10 colleges and universities from around the country: Babson, Cazenovia, Hamilton, Loyola Maryland, LMU. As a matter of fact, Dean Dale Smith, the great dean of that business school, is on the line as well. Syracuse University and University of San Francisco. At last count, we had over 250 Lemoyne faculty, students, staff, and alumni. And we are now sitting at about 350 strong. This is probably the largest Diversity Central in the college's history. But there's more. We also have a very special guest accompanied by his entire senior capstone class. Dr. Richard Peters, a dear friend of mine and one of my favorite human beings, Associate Dean of Arts and Sciences and Professor of Leadership, Xavier University of Louisiana. We hope, Dr. Peters, that you bring warm greetings from New Orleans because it's kind of cold up here.
Dean Joseph, thank you so much. I echo your statements and you're welcome. It is warmer here than it is, although it isn't as warm as we would potentially have like it in the South. I want to say that I'm honored and I'm privileged to be invited to what is most definitely going to be an informative and important session. We, myself and my students, take great personal and professional pride in representing Xavier University of Louisiana, which is our nation's only Black and Catholic institution of higher education. This duality of identity has allowed us to speak to, in a substantive way, both the morality and the racial mindset of our city, New Orleans, our region, and even our world. The fact that the street that borders our institution is now named for our former president, Dr. Norman C. Francis, a pioneer, a person who has essentially lived the motto and the mission of Diversity Central. It's named now for him instead of a controversial historical figure. I believe it's a clear illustration how, as academic institutions, we have helped America pivot, think, and act. But these contributions notwithstanding, we, meaning faculty, staff, students, countries, we still have much to learn about diversity and equity, especially as it relates to our contemporary students. This is why I believe this series, this session, this speaker is so vital. I'm so grateful to have my graduating business seniors here with me. And I know all of you share my enthusiasm for the work of Lemoyne, the Madden School of Business, and even our school, our division of business in preparing tomorrow's leaders to think beyond just strategy and towards social responsibility and justice. We appreciate that leadership, Dean Joseph, and we look forward to our time.
It is an honor to have you and your students with us. I now invite Father Charles Aduke, Interim Director of Inclusive Excellence in Global Education and Visiting Professor of Philosophy, to offer the opening prayer.
Let us pray. Almighty, ever-living God, we invoke your name in blessing on students, staff, and faculty of Le Moyne, and on all who are joining us remotely for this Spring 2021 Madden Lecture and Diversity Central event. We thank you for our panelists and the special invited guests, Mateo Askaripour, Superficial, Richard Peters, and the participants from Xavier University, Louisiana, and our sister universities and colleges. Creator God, with humility and gratitude, we honor the Onondaga Nation, on whose ancestral land our campus stands. Like all the indigenous people, we too pledge to care for this land and our common earthly home in a sustainable manner. We thank you for the 75 years existence of Le Moyne College and for the gift that Le Moyne is and has been to the region, our nation, and global society. We express our gratitude to all those who have given of themselves and their resources to make the gift of a Le Moyne education possible and to advance the Catholic and Jesuit mission of Le Moyne. Bless our alumni and alumni, both living and deceased. Be merciful to our sister and benefactor, Noreen Rial Falcon, and Dr. Dennis De Piro, who you have called from this life. Through De Piro's talents and leadership, he boosted the enrollment both at Le Moyne and at St. Bonaventure. Console the De Piro family and we, his colleagues, who mourn his passing. Wise and patient God, you teach us through the memoir of Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, how humor enabled him to survive the atrocities and subhuman conditions of the concentration camp. Like music, humor in art and storytelling is a universal language for breaking down barriers and building bridges. Send your Holy Spirit to inspire us through the writing and words of Mateo to work towards healing of our race relations, COVID-19 pandemic, and transformation of the structures which up to now have been used to divide us. In God's holy name we pray, amen.
Amen, Father Aduke. That, as always, was beautiful. It is now my pleasure to introduce and welcome our moderator, Jean-Philippe Rancy. He is the recent recipient of the Madden School's inaugural pre-doctoral fellowship in information systems. Affectionately known by all of us as JP, he will begin his fellowship this coming fall of 2021. JP is currently pursuing a doctorate degree at the #1 rated iSchool at Syracuse University. His research areas lie at the intersection of human-computer interaction and management information systems. A native of Queens, New York, he received a bachelor's degree of science in management leadership and information systems from the Madden School at Le Moyne in 2016 and stayed with us for another year to earn his master's in information system in 2017. JP, take it from here.
Hello, everyone. Dean Joseph, thank you so much for that introduction. A very warm welcome to everybody here, to Mateo, to family, my fellow Finns, and everybody here today. I am super excited to be speaking with you all, but really important to really be having an awesome conversation. And I'm glad to be back here at Lemoyne, and I'm excited to see what we do together as a big giant film family and for all of us here today. Well, today we're here to really have an awesome conversation with a rock star. So before he gives his wonderful introduction, tells us about his journey, allow me to say a couple words about him. So Mateo Askaripour, his work aims to empower people of color and seize opportunities for advancement, no matter the obstacle. He was a 2018 Rhode Island Writers Colony writer in residence, and his writing has appeared in Entrepreneur, LitHub, Catapult, the Rumpus, Medium, among other places. He currently lives in Brooklyn, and Black Buck, the book that we're here to talk about today, is a New York Times bestseller. My friend Mateo, welcome here. We all welcome you. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, JP. Wow. I don't even really know what to say. I mean, especially Father Duque, Asante Sana, that prayer was just touched my soul. Thank you so much for that, and just the goodwill. And thank you, Lemoyne, for having me, especially Dean Jim Joseph for bringing me here today. You know, I don't know if any of you have ever been to any of my other events. I know a few of the people that brought me here have been, and they know that I like to talk about personal connections if possible. So a little bit of how I'm speaking here with you right now is that while I was working on Black Buck, I was consulting with tech startups across North America. And one of these startups that I consulted with was an organization in Dumbo, Brooklyn. And I interviewed a young man, and then I hired him because it was clear that he was driven by mission more than money. He actually wanted to help people. He was also articulate to an extremely high degree that I was like, we gotta hire this person or else someone else will. And I began working with this young man and saw that he was as positive as he was bright. And that young man and I, you know, we still kept in touch, and he followed along in my writing journey. And then he told his father, he said, hey, that person Mateo that I used to work with, right? He actually published the book that he said he was going to. And then I spoke to his father, and his father was none other than Dean Joseph. And that young man was Andrew Joseph, as I know him, AJ, who is Dean Joseph's son. So that's how I'm here speaking with all of you right now. And I'm so grateful for it. We're here to talk about reinvention, the art of reinvention. And as you'll likely hear throughout this talk, it's important that we define things to ourselves, values, goals, and words. For me, reinvention is not starting over. It is using who you have been to fuel who you will become. So please keep that in mind. I also want to say, and this is why I was trying to check if the chat actually works. I want to make a quick deal with all of you. And I don't know if you can chat. I don't know if we'll be able to see it, but set it to panelists and attendees just in case. And the deal is this. If you have enjoyed this talk, then at the end, I want you to email Dean Joseph and say thanks. I want you to flood his email if you enjoy this. I'm sure you have his email. If not, I got it and I'll give it to you too. All you gotta do is say thanks. If we have a deal, just write deal in the chat so we know. I'm gonna wait a second to see. Oh, here we go. Wow. It's coming, all the panelists, we can all see these deals. Man, there's all right. Wow. Deal, deal, deal. Every day is deals day, as we say in the book. And for those who have read, they'll know. Someone said I will even go to dinner with him. I don't know if you're saying that you'll put up with him or what, but that sounds good to me. All right, let's kick it off. So I'm here to tell you a story, right? I'm here to tell you a story about myself and my own history. And through my own history, hopefully you will see parts of yourselves reflected in it. If not, it will at least be an entertaining, engaging, and illuminating tale. Let me bring it back, if I may, to 2012. All right. I wasn't this bearded individual. I didn't have a gold chain. I didn't have any gold to speak of. My hair was a lot shorter. There was no hat. There was no book. There was no bookcase. I was a young man at Yankee Stadium getting ready for graduation. I graduated from college with a degree in politics and a minor in Middle Eastern Islamic studies. When I first came into college, I thought that I was going to study politics, graduate, pursue law, and then afterwards get into politics. But while I was there in college, I studied abroad a bit, I expanded my own horizons, and I realized that I didn't want to pursue law, and I wasn't going to just do it to get to this other place, because I was told that if you're really not sure about law school, you probably shouldn't go. It'll be a waste of time and money. So I said, okay, what am I going to do? I wasn't sure. But I had been awarded a scholarship called the Critical Language Scholarship by the State Department. And what this scholarship sets out to do is help Americans learn languages that we typically don't learn here. So not your French, Italian, or Spanish, but your Azerbaijani, your Russian, your Mandarin, or in my case, Persian. And though my father is from Iran and my mother is from Jamaica, I'm first generation, my father never taught us his language. We were more so raised, I have 4 brothers, we were more so raised as just 5 Black men with Caribbean heritage in New York. So me, still wanting to connect with that other side of myself, pursued my father's language and got the scholarship. They flew us to a country called Tajikistan. I don't know how many people know what and where Tajikistan is, but it is a country that is the poorest former Soviet Union country in Central Asia. It's also a beautiful land, beautiful people in terms of their hearts. They're very warm. And we were studying Persian for 10 hours a day. And I had a great time. When I came back, I was back at my parents' house on Long Island. And I was wondering, what am I going to do? I'm not going to use this language for anything. I'm not going to go into law. Who am I going to become? I wasn't sure. It was at that point that it was not do or die, but I have to figure out, what am I going to do with my time? So I began applying to 30 jobs a day. Fortunately, the college that I went to had a career portal called CareerNet. And I applied to 30 jobs a day without, again, still knowing what I was going to pursue. And I had debt that had to be paid back. So every day was me applying, and I was going to be a paralegal's assistant. I was going to manage a gym. I was going to be an executive dog walker. I don't know. I mean, I was going to do so many types of things. And it was while I was applying to all of these jobs that I found this organization that was looking to teach people how to use the internet. And I said, that's pretty egalitarian. That's democratic. I like that. They were teaching people how to use the internet through 60 to 90-second videos called microlearning. And the idea was such: say Airbnb comes out, right? There was a time when none of us knew what Airbnb was, or Uber, or Facebook, and so forth, Twitter. This organization would come out with lessons telling people how to create a login, how to stay up to date with all the different iterations of these platforms and so forth. And I thought it was great. So I applied to write their video content. And at this point, I didn't even look at myself as a writer, really. But I said, this seems fun. This seems interesting. First interview went well. Second interview, they wanted me to meet with the CEO. I met with the CEO, and then they bring me into another room. It was a little strange. And they say, Mateo, we just hired 2 guys already. We hired 2 people for this job. They were right for it, but we want you to intern here. And I said, intern? What are you talking about? They said, yeah, we want you to intern, and we're not going to pay you. And I said, you're not going to pay me? I was magna cum laude at my organization. I've traveled extensively. I just learned this other language. What do you mean? And some other guy comes in and he says, Mateo, chill out. You got the internship. I said, got what? What are you talking about? But they convinced me. It was, you know, whether they knew it or not, it was a sales tactic. They convinced me to take the job. And I felt as though there was real opportunity there. They said, how often are you going to be coming to the office? I said, well, I'm living on Long Island, but my mother travels into the city every day for her job as a nurse. So I will wake up at 4 a.m. 2 days out of the week and go and start working at this company. And I went back home and I told my parents, and they're like, what? You're going to be working at this company for free? You have debt. What are you talking about? I told friends. They said, what? We're out here making $65,000, $70,000. You're going to work for free? We thought that you were going to be the one. We thought that you were going to be the one that we would look up to, and he was going to make it very far. But something inside me said to do it. Something. I trust what I felt more than what I thought and what I was hearing. And I think that was, now that I'm speaking with you all, one of the first times that I learned what it meant to bet on myself and to trust myself and my gut, irrespective of the external. So what happened? Waking up at 4 a.m., my mother would drive in. I would, sort of be nodding off. She would drop me off in a friend's apartment. I would stay in a friend's apartment for an hour or two, sleeping, catching up on some sleep, and then go into this startup. And I was working extremely hard. And at the same time, I had another gig that I got, and they were supposed to be paying me, but they didn't. But I said, you know what? I can't stay home anymore. And it's not like home wasn't a good place. I come from a loving family, and they're very supporting for the most part. But I said, I have to get out of Long Island. I have to leave my parents' home. I have to really push myself and take a leap. So I moved to Bed-Stuy. And I remember the night before, my mother telling me, you only have a couple $100 in your bank account. How are you actually going to make it? Why are you doing this? I think that you should stay home a little bit longer. And I said, listen, the worst thing that could happen is that I don't take this leap. And then I'm rethinking it for years about what would have happened if I did. And if I didn't fail, but I succeeded. So my pops drove me into Bed-Stuy. I was living in this it was basically a windowless room, but it had like a window that opened up to a brick wall. So that's why I say it was basically windowless. And I was betting that this other job would pay me so that I could continue to do the internship. And that job, that side hustle that was supposed to be paying me, they didn't pay me for a while. And I remember writing on the back of a receipt, I bought $22 worth of like rolls and eggs because that's what I was eating. I was eating like 6 egg sandwiches every day with onion rolls. I put them in my backpack, taking the subway, and I know I was stinking up that subway. But I remember writing on the back of that receipt, which I still have, saying, do not forget this time. Remember who you are at this point. And remember what it was like when you were just working as hard as possible to get on. So I'm working at this startup still. And I go to the CEO and I tell him that I think I'll have to leave. This other job isn't paying me. And he told me, he said, listen, this is maybe a form of sales as well. He said, Mateo, I don't need you, but I want you to work here. And what will make me need you is if you become indispensable. I need someone who's going to run through a brick wall, who's going to have a motor that won't stop. And whether that advice was good or not, or manipulative in some ways, he knew what he had to say to me. So I stayed on. I ended up getting, help from other places and pulled enough money together to pay my rent. And then that other money that was supposed to come in from that other job did. And I hit into a whole nother level at that startup. So what happened? I was hired. And after a couple of months, the CEO came to me and he said, listen, our company is monetizing. We would like you to start the sales team with us. And I began selling. What did that mean? I was picking up the phone, calling hundreds of people, not knowing what I was doing. I was afraid. I'd pick up the phone and hope that someone wouldn't pick up. Or if they did, I would say, this is Mateo calling from XYZ. Sometimes people would put me on speaker so their friends could hear me pitching, and then they'd laugh and just hang up. Other people would curse me out, whatever. But I knew that this was another instance where I had to bet on myself. Betting on myself had gotten me there thus far. So I wanted to keep going. And I continued. And the company within 2.5 years went from 20 to 230 people. The sales team went from me to about 90 people. And then where am I? I'm 24. I'm managing 30 people. I'm making over $100,000. It was wild. But at the same time, while it looked on the outside like my life was ascending, who I was and the best parts of myself were deteriorating. I was chasing this success, or what I thought success meant, which was really just what people told me success meant, meaning having money, power, clothing, status, all of these things. And in turn, I was screening my mother's calls. The woman who carried me in her womb for 9 months, she'd call me and I'd be like, too busy, click. I would do that regularly. And she would still call me because she loves me unconditionally. My family, right, growing up on Long Island, they were only about an hour and 10 minutes from where I was living in the city at that point when I was in Manhattan. I only saw them once every 4 or so months. Best friends from college or that I'd grown up with would try to hang out. But me, I would have rather worked, or I would have rather hung out with the people that I worked with. I was in what we would now have the language to call the sunken place. I had sacrificed the best parts of myself in pursuit of material things, or even not material things, but the intangible feeling of what it's like to be admired, stroking my own ego. And sooner or later, I became disillusioned with that world of sales and startups. I all of a sudden began waking up with the help of some books that I read, with the help of other people for just constantly saying, like, who are you? Who did you become? It all finally clicked. I believe that, self-liberation doesn't really happen all that often. We have to be helped to wake up to things that we just can't see right now. And that's why it's important to have a network. So this was January 2016, and I said, I'm not healthy mentally, physically, or emotionally. I need to get back on track. So I began to write because I remembered that writing for me was always a go-to. It's something that I loved. I began writing articles and essays, primarily focused on sales and startups. And then later that year in May, I said, you know what? Why don't I write fiction? Fiction for me was always something that I really enjoyed when I was younger. So I said, let me try. Let me just see what will happen. And when I began writing fiction on weekends, instead of going out partying, I'd sleep on Fridays and then write on Saturdays and write on Sundays. I began to like myself again. I began to feel more creative and more healthy. I began to reconnect with all the people I distanced myself from. So when I eventually left that job in August 2016, I was experiencing a lot of anxiety. I didn't really know who I was without that title, Mateo, Director of Sales Development. But you know what? My best friends were still there for me. My family was still there for me. And they said, we got you. They helped me reconnect with nature. They helped me reconnect with the better parts of myself. And I traveled. I had a little savings from that job, right? Things changed, life changed in a handful of years. And I pursued writing more seriously. The first manuscript, nothing happened with it. I wrote it. I thought that this was going to be the next best thing since sliced bread. No, bunch of rejections. But because of my background in sales and startups, I realized that rejection was just a means to an end, and that I had to persevere. I had to cultivate an almost abnormal level of stamina, because I knew that no one was going to fulfill my dream for me. No one was going to turn my goals into reality. I had to be the one to manifest it. But along the way, I realized that I didn't have to go it alone, but we'll get there in a second. Second manuscript, didn't work out. I thought that I knew more what I was doing. I'd studied writing. I had studied books of craft. I'd met a couple more people in the industry, but I was pandering to other people. I was trying to write what I thought they needed to read. And it was then, now around November 2017, that I hit this abyss. That's a little dramatic, but that's what it felt like, an emotional or creative abyss, where I was questioning myself, necessarily so. It was a humbling of sorts. And I said, who was I to think that I could write? Who was I to think that I could, go from being the sales guy to being someone that would be accepted as a writer and then could eventually have a book that would be published? But it was in that space that I found freedom, the freedom to write what I wanted in the way that I wanted, to serve the people that I wanted. And again, I identified it as a point of reinvention, where I needed to bet on myself. So I said, all right, it doesn't matter whether it takes 5 months or 5 years, I'm all in. But now I wasn't alone. I wasn't looking to do it alone. And I wasn't looking just to serve myself. I was looking to serve other people and write a book that I would hope positively impact others and know that they're not alone, especially if they have been one of the few, if not the only one, in environments and where they have been made to feel less than, or paranoid, or overly sensitive, or crazy for thinking that things are amiss. So armed with my support, my family and friends, armed with my would-be future readers, I got to the task, and fortunately it worked out. And along the way, I kept open to community, and I found a writing family called the Rhode Island Writers Colony that embraced me and let me know that they had my back. And that's how I'm here speaking with you, 367 people, about this book. I did not cast off and forget who I was in the past and forget my failures and mistakes. But in fact, I remembered them to propel me and fuel me forward to become the person I wanted to be. So been talking a lot, and I'm here not to just talk at you, but to speak with you. So let me pause there for questions to discuss with the esteemed JP and go from there.
Wow. That was a lot. I love it.
That was a
This
lot,
really
man.
great. No, I'm so enamored. I don't even know where to begin.
I blacked
All right.
out.
Well, we do actually have some questions from the audience. So I know we'll have a chance to talk, but we got some interesting questions from the audience I want to pass through a little bit before you continue. So the first one was from Karen, and basically she said she loved the theme of selling your soul to the devil, and along with racial injustice. Can you elaborate on other themes in Black Buck?
Most definitely. Thank you, Karen. There are so many themes, and you're right. And we'll probably talk about them today. People really focus on the sales aspect or race, but there are many others. There's the concept of family. Is family something that we're born into or something that we choose? And I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't really read the book, but we see Darren, the protagonist, who is renamed as Buck when he starts working at this organization called Someone, SUMWUN. And he has his family, he has his homies from Bed-Stuy. And then when he begins working at this company, he gains a whole new family that in some ways is realer to him than the people that he came from. So I'm throwing that into question, as well as the nature of opportunity. Who in this nation is typically dispensing opportunity and who is receiving it? And what kind of contract is that, right? Is it master enslaved person, mentor, mentee, big sibling, younger sibling? I wanted to throw that into question to have people examine it. Also, the idea of success. What is success? I kicked this conversation off talking about how we need to define things for ourselves rather than just having them handed down to us and saying, well, okay, they tell me that this is the American dream, then I have to, do X, Y, Z in order to live it, when we know it's not the same for everyone. So in terms of success, Darren, in the beginning, is working at Starbucks. He is a shift supervisor. He has a well-oiled machine. These people look up to him. They love him. He has a loving mother, a caring girlfriend, best friend, his neighborhood, and his neighborhood has him, right? People could look at Darren and say he is a failure. He is wasting potential because 4 years prior, he was valedictorian of an esteemed public high school, Bronx Science. But why are we saying that he wasn't successful? Just because he wasn't making money, just because he didn't have the flash and the pomp and the power and status? I think that success is what you make it. And we see the disastrous consequences that happen when Darren begins to chase someone else's definition of success. So many themes, relationships with significant others, what it means to be a real partner, the cost of success and that people have to pay to achieve it, especially people of color, or anyone who has ever been marginalized. There are just so many themes in this. So Karen, thank you for asking. It's a lot to unpack.
Thank you, Karen, for asking. That was a wonderful question. I have another question from Portia, and we will try to address as many questions.
Hold on, the name is Portia?
That is the name.
Wow, there's a character named Portia. Oh, but it's spelled differently than yours, Portia. That's great.
Porsha. So Portia first asked, what would you do differently if you were 24? And she followed that up by saying, what can I do to get ahead 10 years?
Get ahead 10 years?
Yep.
Oh, what can I do now to get ahead in 10 years?
Get ahead, yep.
Yeah, okay. Well, when I was 24, that's when I was managing that sales team. I was also 24 when I quit that job. If I could tell a younger me something, it would be never, ever take for granted the people who loved you before you gained any accoutrements of success or whatever you define it as. Never neglect the folks who love you unconditionally, because regardless of if you're on the top of the mountain or below in a cave, those are the people who will still be there for you. So that's what I would tell myself. In terms of what can you do now to get ahead in 10 years, I'd say know that you are valuable. And when interacting with others, make sure that they know that you know you're valuable. Have a good idea of what you want in this life and the impact that you're looking to have on others, and allow that to guide you. And take risks. Every single day, I tell myself to take risks. And I'm not talking about jumping into the Grand Canyon with a parachute. Risks are relative and they come in all shapes and sizes. So only you can determine what a risk is. But for some people, it is sending that email to that individual who you believe can give you a job or give you some insight. Others, it is telling someone that you like romantically, that you're into them and seeing if they're going to reciprocate. For other people, it's just trying out green beans because they never liked green beans and now they want to switch up their day. So I would definitely say, take risks. Thank you for your question, Portia.
All righty, we have questions flying in like crazy. So we're going to try to answer as much as we can. And there's going to be a Q&A afterwards. I do want to remind everybody of that. So we'll definitely try to jump in a little bit. But Mateo, I kind of want to channel a little bit back to your journey a little bit. And because I felt like you kind of paused a little bit and try to catch up with the crowd. I just wanted to know if there's anything else you wanted to add on to kind of finish it, or kind of not even finish it, but like, kind of put a bow tie on like your wonderful journey thus far.
No, man, that's it.
Awesome.
That's it. Yeah, I gave you a lot. And again, now I'm here to engage and listen.
All righty. Well, awesome. Well, let's actually kick off a little bit with some things I actually have for you.
Let's get it.
I mean, so what really enamored me about your story was coming to like this current modern age where you're telling your story of a first generation individual that, kind of took the jump, as like I like to call it sometimes, or a lot of people call it, but, kind of going for it. And I mean, I definitely saw a lot of that in my own personal journey too. And I think like you beautifully said it in your book, any person could be a salesman as long as they have a vision. I wanted to talk to you, like, what was that aha moment where you kind of had that vision and you kind of converted from, kind of being, I don't want to say scared, because that was not the sense I got, but kind of flipping the switch from let's actually jump, let's actually do it, to let me just kind of passively go along the game of life, if you will.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there was one moment, but
Sure.
I came to the realization somewhere along the way that life is a lot funner and more positive, and that you get more out of it when you realize that you are an active participant and not a spectator. When you are someone who is creating life through living rather than just having life be something that happens to you. When it came to making this jump or taking this leap in terms of writing, it came down to me realizing that no one was going to do it for me, that I had to be the one to sit down and put the words to the page. And then I had to be the one that cared more than anyone else about achieving my goals and making my dreams a reality. So I guess what I'm saying is that it was me reframing my mindset rather than waiting for someone to give me an opportunity or do it for me.
Awesome. Another question I kind of just wanted to feed in a little bit. So I heard Jamaica, right? And Iran too. So from the islands, I gotta say, and I know a lot of our students personally too, are kind of echoing some of these same cultural vibes. How was it like when you first left? What was the impression left on your family when you finally decided to do something that might have not been as in the cultural norm, if you will? To kind of give you an example, I know personally from my upbringing, it was kind of defined that I should be a doctor or I should be a lawyer. And it's funny you said lawyer too in your own sense, because I'm just like, that was the same exact speech I was given. And to kind of come back and said, no, I am actually gonna try this out. My point was, I'm gonna actually jump into this major and I'm gonna actually forget industry for a little bit and go this way. There was a little bit of uncomfortableness and detachment. Can you talk a little bit about that from your end?
Yeah. So as many of us who are first gen will know, and I'm not trying to generalize, but it's just what I've seen, is that people who come to this country, and make no mistake, everyone here except indigenous people, and even them, tens of thousands of years ago came to this land. But a lot of us are just recent arrivals, whether our parents came here or our grandparents or their grandparents, or even 300 years ago came here. You see what I'm saying? But what I've seen with first generation people today is that there is this idea that we need to be practical and that we need to make money, and that every choice we make has to be pushing ourselves and our families forward. And I believe in growth and evolution, of course, but to answer your question directly, JP, when I told my family that I was gonna, start working at the startup, they said, what are you doing? How are you going to make money? How are you going to eat? And even so, with writing, they said, we support you, of course, but what are you gonna do in the meantime to sustain yourself? Because they knew that I didn't want to be a starving artist. So there had to be a practical lens to everything that I was doing. So yeah, that's how they met it and met my thoughts and my dreams. And fortunately it paid off. But my parents on the whole, since a young age, have been open to myself and my brothers doing things a bit differently. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I don't want to dominate this. I just have one more question. We're geared toward our students watching today.
Yeah.
Before I really tailor back a little bit back to these channeling questions going in. So one of the, I've spoken to many of our own, and I know many students have this internal debate in their minds, and it's kind of, I don't know where to find access to resources. I don't know how to fit these, like how to solve these financial debts, or ask for gaining access to maybe financial aid, or jumping into gaining access to getting your foot in the door for opportunities. What would you tell our students about traveling through this uncomfortable realm, through either affordability or making the next move in their journey, or kind of this uncomfortableness about kind of these barriers, as I like to call it, barriers of entry or barriers of access? What message would you deliver to our students?
Yeah, that's tough, JP, because there's so many different ways that you can answer it, right? The first is knowing that you are valuable, knowing that you have a purpose, right? Working to overcome internal obstacles. It's very easy for other people to say that you shouldn't do things, but it means a lot more when you tell yourself that you can't do something. So I think the first step is believing that you can achieve your dreams, that you have the right to chase success, however you define it, just as much as anyone else. Then I would say, ask for help. When I came into this game of writing, I asked for help, and most people didn't give it to me, to be honest, but there was one or two people who would send me an email response and maybe meet with me for coffee. Not many people, but I at least asked for help and gave people the opportunity to help me if possible. Because on the whole, I believe that we are, as people, more good than anything else, and that we are more helpful than anything else. That's just the way that I look at the world. I'd also say study. All of us, I believe, that are here, have the ability to read and write. Go pick up a book related to your craft, and maybe the book hits and it doesn't. That's the thing about self-teaching and self-learning. Sometimes you make some mistakes. Sometimes you receive pieces of feedback that just don't resonate. But that's okay, because at least you know what doesn't resonate and what you want to steer clear of. So I would say those three things: ask for help, study, really believe in yourself and bet on yourself, and then Take risks. Goes back to taking risks and knowing that you will change and that you should embrace change.
Mateo, beautiful.
Mateo, can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Are we going to hear from Superficial soon?
Yeah, we will.
Just about to bring him in, or like mention that same point, Jim.
Let's get it.
So for everybody in the audience, don't worry, we'll continue the Q&A in a little bit, but I'm not going to spoil anything more. Mateo, why don't you introduce Superficial to us?
So you're about to get a performance from my good friend Superficial, and I'll keep this personal story short, but Superficial and I, we grew up together. We were actually both in AP English, and I will never forget, we were reading John Steinbeck of Mice and Men, and we had to come in and deliver a speech of some sort about what the book means to us and what have you. Superficial came up and in front of our class spit a verse that just brought everyone, especially me, to my knees. I just couldn't believe how incredible it was. Fortunately, Superficial and I have grown together as individuals, as humans in this world, and he is charting his own path. He has a series on Instagram called Barmageddon, where he just lights up the virtual stage, and he is someone that inspires me. He has a recent piece of work called Keep Calm, out on Spotify and all streaming services. I bump it regularly. Without further ado, my boy Superficial to grace your ears and screens. Look at that man. He's also very good looking. Look at that man.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate you having me on here. And what's up, everybody? I appreciate the opportunity. I'll make this quick because I know y'all have a lot of questions and stuff. I go by the name of Superficial. I'm also from Long Island, New York. And I'm just to give you a little background on myself. I'm a graduate of Howard University. Y'all may have heard of it. And I've been working in the mental health field for the past 7 years. I've seen, a lot of different crazy things working in New York and DC. And I currently work with students who have emotional disturbances, intellectual disabilities, trauma, and so on. So my main thing that I do is I motivate and I de-escalate. So I'm gonna get into that in a little bit, but pretty much working in the field for the past 7 or so years, I've learned, as you probably already know, that in the Black community, that's mental health is swept under the rug. It's stigmatized. It's really not addressed as much as it should be, and that correlates with the success of our Black brothers and sisters. And what I wanted to do today was just give y'all a little info in the form of inspiration, motivation, and de-escalation. So like Buck, like the character Buck in the novel, I too am a man on a mission, and that mission is the mantra that I live by, which is keep calm. If 2020 has taught us anything, it's that we can't control a lot of these things, all these outside factors, but we can't control what we do allow to affect us. We can control our response, our reaction, and just remind yourself to keep calm. So what I wanted to do today was just kick a few bars for y'all today, drop a few gems, some gritty poetry, if you will, and I hope y'all enjoy it. So I'm gonna get right into it. It's wild. Low frequencies will catch you like a lasso, and most of the corner stores you sell booze and tobacco to drown out the poverty. Every block got a Crown Fried Chicken or Mickey D's. You guessed it, like OG Macko. Just getting to school's a hassle. Junior high is where they plateau. Niggas get jacked like apples for their apple products because crabs in the barrel never really had a lot of capital for profit. That's a fact, like a Snapple bottle cap. So half of them ball, the other half probably rap, looking for handouts like a dap, surrounded by vagabonds in a modern Babylon, where they learn to use force like a Padawan. Guess just come with the territory like a tag-along. Fight or flight, if you gotta secure the bag, homie, carry on. Idolize crime, glorify trapper songs, wave ratchets like magic wands. It's tragic. This is the type of shit to give a nigga cold chills. Always on the move, grimy people hold still. Put your life on the line so I know it's real. I might catch a body on this journey, call it roadkill. But we have to de-escalate. And in order to do that, we have to put aside our unconscious biases, our preconceived notions, stereotypes, assumptions, all these things that bring out the ugliness, the ugly side of human nature. And I want everyone to just pause for a second and try to put your mind at ease, get some oxygen, take some time to breathe. You see, the irony is that the cost of living is to die for free. I know how overwhelming life can be. War against self is the price of peace. If it's true that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, then behold, because I'm a sight to see. This is superficial body. This is a temporary form. Our lives are a portal. Our souls are immortal. This art will forever live on. I want harmony more than joy, fame, and wealth. Pray to God, but still strapping the safety belt. Say the Lord's name in vain because we vain as hell. My shit is so dope, I should pay myself. But to de-escalate, we have to take ourselves to a happy place. In order to take ourselves to a happy place, we have to think positive thoughts. And in order to do that, we have to be mindful. And that's the last piece of what I'm doing today. I'm going to de-escalate and motivate and de-escalate. So in order to fully do that, you have to think about the good things. You have to think about positive things. You have to think about what makes it worth waking up in the morning, what makes you smile, count the little blessings, and just continue to, sometimes when I'm frustrated or down, I have to ask myself, what the hell am I complaining about? Got a roof over my head, good food in my stomach, could use both of my legs, see with both of my eyes. By now I'm supposed to be dead or in jail, but instead I never felt more alive. They used to say we wouldn't even make it to 25. Blessed enough to articulate and verbalize what the hell I feel, communicate what's on my mind, hear with my ears. They say that faith is jumping blind. I'd have plane with the hopes that when you dive into the sky, the parachute would open up in the nick of time. I've been blessed with a special lady to elevate me when I'm down and out and celebrate me, never count me out. What was I whining about? So that concludes the bars that I have for y'all today. I hope that, you can get some inspiration and motivation from that. I appreciate Mateo for the opportunity. I appreciate y'all for giving me that time just to drop some gems on y'all real quick. You can follow me on all social media at super_official. That's super_FICIAL, where I continue to drop, motivation, inspiration in the form of music and art. I hope y'all enjoyed my presentation today. Keep comments out everywhere. And much blessings to Mateo on this book, on the success of this book. And I think it's going to be adapted to film really soon. Great read. That's it. I'm gonna hand the mic back to y'all.
Thank you, brother. That was just incredible and a necessary focus on mental health and taking a break and taking a breath, right? We see what happens, and we see what happens in my own journey and the story of Black Buck when you just become so consumed that you lose yourself and you forget to breathe. JP, I see we have at least 18 questions in the Q&A. We have so many in the chat as well. I know you're going to moderate this, but could I grab a couple that speak to me?
Go for it. Go, listen, don't ask, do. I love it.
Well, this isn't, I'm not trying to run the show. So this comes from anonymous attendee. Love the read, but not sure how to make sense of the ending. What message did you want us to get at the end? Are you saying the bad guys are the white guys? No, most definitely not. And it's funny because I've had people ask me, am I actually saying that your own people will be your downfall? Because I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but people who have read the book know who I'm talking about, right? The individual who comes back at the end and there is a certain betrayal. So to answer your question directly, no, I'm definitely not saying that. Of course, some of the villainish people in the book are white, but that's just because of the environment that Darren finds himself in. We definitely see other people, and Darren himself, that do unsavory things and how flawed he is. In terms of the message, though, that I wanted to convey, it's tough. There are my thoughts in the end, but I more so care about what people take away, because that's a direct reflection of where they are in their own lives. In my opinion, Darren, despite his circumstances, is still free. And in fact, potentially freer than who and where he was while he was working at that company, because he finally has the requisite distance to look at his past. And he is also on the path to redemption, and he created something that's bigger than himself. So by the end, I want readers to feel many things. I want them to see how they've been reflected in the narrative, and then use that to ask how they're reflected and portrayed in the larger narrative of our nation and world. So that's what I was thinking. Thank you for the question. JP, maybe it's good if we ping pong, right? Like you grab one.
Yep, that's all fine with me. So actually, there is a question that we saw a repeat. It's been repeating a lot, so I just want to make sure a lot of the audience gets an answer to this. So as you were writing the book, or as you were writing the plot, was it kind of planned, or did it unfold as you were writing it?
Yeah, it unfolded as I was writing it. So for my first manuscript, in this journey of 3 that I've discussed, it was just a ton of energy. It was sort of all over the place to a certain extent, and it just wasn't as tied together as it needed to be. So for that second manuscript, when I said, okay, I need to get an agent with this one, every single instance was plotted out. I had so many post-its in front of me. I knew exactly how it was going to play out, scene by scene, character by character. But what happened was that second manuscript was lacking vigor. It had no energy like the first, even though it was a lot tighter and cleaner. So for Black Buck, I said, all right, that second time didn't really feel good. The first manuscript felt a lot better, but I think that there's a healthy balance of retaining some structure while injecting a lot of energy, or at least making sure that as I'm progressing in the writing process, I don't let it go too far off the rails. But in the case that I do, it's okay, because I can revise as many times as I want. No one knows about this book except me. You know, that's the pro of writing your first novel or working on your first thing, whatever it may be. So for Black Buck, I knew a few things when I began writing it that first night. I wrote the author's note at night, and I never write at night. It was January 8th, 2018. And today this author's note is largely unchanged. So I knew a few things. I knew the big twist at the end. I knew that I wanted him to be from Brooklyn. I knew, I guess, a couple characters because we see one named Wally Cat featured in the author's note, but I did not know how I was going to get Darren to the end. I did not know about all the characters he was going to meet. So I was making it up as I went along. And to answer another question that I'm seeing about how autobiographical it is, it's funny because we were talking about that in one of the earlier sessions, I believe either with the leadership class or the writing class. My history suffuses every page of this book, but it doesn't mean that it's the blow by blow of I did this, so this is here. Who I am, I'm bringing, I guess maybe any author could say that they're bringing their whole selves to a book, but I have worked in sales. I did work in startups, so I didn't have to do research for those two aspects of the book. I lived it. I lived in Bed-Stuy for a year when I was on the come up, so I set the book there. But you'll notice this book isn't taking place in Long Island where I grew up, because I didn't think that if I rendered this book a blow by blow of my own history, I would have had the necessary distance to write it in the way that I wanted to then relate to other people. Darren and I, right, we have a slightly different upbringing. I started at the startup in a different place than where Darren was. I've never worked at Starbucks. So there are many differences, but there are also similarities as well.
Mateo.
Yeah, here's one from Caleb real quick. Do you think that you could have had a healthy relationship in sales? Yes, most definitely. I mean, my path to having lost myself isn't the path that everyone follows. I don't know if it's the exception or not. I'm not sure. I mean, I've seen it with other people, especially people who read my book and then email me saying that they experienced something similar in the world of corporate business or in some other environment where they were the only person or one of the few. But I also believe that everything is sales right now, right? Whether I'm making it come off this way or not, I feel like I'm selling to you. I feel like, JP talking about his own history is a form of sales. In some cases, someone saying, I love you. I look at that as being a form of sales. Do you actually love this individual? It's this push and pull. So today, knowing or believing that many, if not all, interactions are sales. And I'm not saying transactional in nature or the negative connotation of like, gotcha, right? But coming from this place, I do believe I have a healthy relationship, because even speaking with you all right now, I don't have sales in the forefront of my mind. I have the desire to reach you and have my words resonate with you and positively impact you. And I do believe that I have a healthy relationship in that space right now.
Mateo, I got a nice hot question coming in. Well, a lot of people are talking about the same one. Miranda started this train, but she
We're up,
basically
Miranda.
asked, what is the most important characteristic or quality in human beings that is essential to your definition of success? And it seems like a lot of our audience are very curious about your ideas of success too. So if you could speak a little bit about that.
Service being the highest purpose. That my life changed when I stopped just living for myself and realized that helping other people was a win-win. Even if you're self-interested and you say, let me lift other people up, what happens is that your arms get stronger in the process. I know it doesn't look like I bench a lot, but you know what I'm saying. When you lift other people up, you get stronger in the process. So that for me is, I think, in relation to my definition of success, which is bringing my ideas and dreams to fruition, turning them into a reality to positively impact other people, that if you are service oriented and you understand that success really means nothing unless you help other people achieve it, then, you know, that's what I would say is service.
Mateo, I just want to say that answer touched my heart and should touch the hearts of many Finns out there. That is as Jesuit as an answer as you can get. That really reflects our values, being a servant for others. I love that a lot. Very awesome. So
there are cons to that as well, right?
Sure.
You have to make sure that you are not losing yourself or killing yourself or burning yourself out. I think that people can sometimes find themselves in this internal, external competition of, like you were saying, right? Let me just be the best servant, yet they forget to serve themselves as well and the people closest around them. So it's this constant balancing act.
Right. We got a question from Jake. How do you separate your intuition or gut feeling from an over analytical mind?
Well, it's knowing that both exist. You know, there's a book, and Jake, you might have read it, Thinking Fast and Slow, that talk about the two minds that we have, as you were saying, the intuitive mind and then the more so analytical mind. I think that respecting them both and knowing that there is a time and place for each will allow you to calibrate when to use one and when to use the other. For example, and we were discussing this in one of our earlier sessions, I write my first draft very intuitively. I write it with my heart. And then it's the second draft that I bring in my mind for revision. There are also times, right, where I have to put on my analytical mind because I feel as though I might be getting overexcited in a scenario and be making choices that I won't like or be able to live with afterwards. They say that people buy based off of emotion and justify based off of reason. So I would say you never want to hinder either of those two sides with you, but just getting to know them better, getting to know what it feels like when you're thinking rather than feeling, making sure that you're not lying to yourself, that you're being very honest, and then just honing those skills. But it is hard, but it starts with knowing yourself and trusting yourself, rather than constantly being inundated by overstimulation or other people telling you what you should do, how you should think. This is why sometimes, especially for those who are wrapped up in social media, it's good to take a social media detox for a day or a week, if not longer. If you feel as though you're too keyed into social media, that you're losing your perception of self and what you want in life, it's tough, but you take a week, you delete all the apps, you take a week off. At first, you're going to be like, you're going to have the jitters. It's like, you know, you're addicted. You're going to have the jitters. But then day 2, day 3, you'll say, I don't know if I'm actually missing anything. Actually, I feel a lot healthier and I have a lot more time. By day 7, you're saying, wow, I might actually have a different relationship with social media and realizing that it's more so a tool rather than the end all be all of my identity in my life. That's just something that I've done and it worked out for me.
Mateo, I got a question in about, and this is actually something I wanted to ask you personally too. This focus on identity a little bit, right? So did you have to change your image, like in the corporate world, to kind of conform to like the standards that were kind of bestowed on you? And a couple of audience members mentioned some examples of this too, like for instance, haircut, something as simple as that, or like, you know, yourself, how you present yourself. I would add on to what the audience said, maybe in terms of your vernacular too, or mannerisms. Can you like talk about your identity and self-image?
Yeah, there's a couple things, and I'm not maybe your typical individual who puts people down for code switching, right? And for those who don't know, code switching is when you act differently or speak differently or present yourself differently in places where you are the only one or one of the few, so that you will be more palatable and acceptable. I'm not someone who puts people down for that, because for some folks, it's a matter of survival in environment. I will say though, that not everyone also deserves your whole self. So if you don't want to speak with a colleague in the same way that you speak with your family or your close homies, like, you don't have to. Authenticity, again, another word, is defined by you. By you. And as long as you can live with who you are proud of who you are happy of who you are, that's all that matters, in my opinion. But it's cultivating that strong sense of, again, trusting yourself, loving yourself, knowing that you're valuable, which is what will help you understand who and how you want to be in different scenarios, in different situations. Because it's not always practical to be the same person all the time. It is exhausting to try to be the same person all the time, and it takes effort. But again, only you can define how and what you want to be for other people, and that's okay. No one else can do it for you.
Awesome response. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah.
So we got a question from Megan, and this is actually a Black Buck specific question. But talking about the conclusion of Darren's journey, Megan mentioned how this conclusion is a little different from how your conclusion was and how you are now. And why did you choose this path? Why did you choose this for his path, and how is it different from your path?
I mean, it is and it's not different, right? Darren and I aren't the same person.
Sure.
You know, I'm not Darren. So, and this is also a work of fiction. Like, let's remember that. It's not nonfiction on purpose. So I would say that Darren and I are similar by the end, because he too realizes that service is the highest purpose. He built an organization that is bigger than himself. And, you know, I'm trying to be a little spoiler free. For me, again, I'm always trying to give back while continuing to achieve my own goals and then help other people do the same. So Darren and I are similar in that aspect. He also ends up in a different place that, for those who have read the book, I am not in that place right now. And I ended it that way because while some people love the ending, while some people don't like it, but they understand that it makes sense, and while some people just really don't like it and wish that it was different, that for me is what made the most sense in terms of the larger narrative, because this narrative is so outsized. There's so much that goes on in it. And where Darren ends up in some ways is commentary on that what we do in this life matters. And even if we, I believe that everyone should be given the benefit of the doubt, and that we should all be given the opportunities to redeem ourselves, but sometimes you can't always cover all your bases. And what Darren does to something comes back on him later on in the book. And that's just showing that in some instances, every action has equal and opposite reaction, or sometimes even greater. Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Awesome. All right. I just want to remind everyone that we might not be able to get through all the questions, but Mateo is so gracious to offer his email to everyone also. So if you guys have conversations you want to speak about afterwards, you could definitely ping him. But for now, what I'm going to do is try to start wrapping this up a little bit and cover some overarching.
We got 31 questions right now in the
We
chat.
have a lot, man.
Wow. Let me just pick a couple, just real quick ones.
You know what? Go for it.
I'm going to be short. All right. Have you always been a skilled and confident speaker, or is it something that's taken practice over the years? Practice, for sure. I can show you some videos of me 10 years ago where I'm looking like, good afternoon, everyone. You know, there was a lot of that. It's just practice over time, and I still don't always get it right. But a theme in my life that has helped me is not being too hard on myself and not judging myself too often, and knowing that making a mistake is something that I can correct the next time that I have an opportunity to do so. Okay, this is from Debaretu, and apologies if I mispronounced that. Why do you think it is important to have diversity in the workplace or work in a space that welcomes diversity? Well, starting backwards, it's important to work in a space that actually welcomes diversity, and not in a performative manner, but truly in their culture, because otherwise you're only going to have one type of person working there. And one type of person engenders one type of thought, typically engenders one type of result. And it's just not a fun place to work, and it's probably not going to survive or thrive in the same way that it could. Now, in the beginning part of your question, why is it important to have diversity in the workplace? Diversity, this has been proven. And whether you love Harvard Business Review or McKinsey or Deloitte, these are people who are tasked with performing studies. And it has been proven that increased diversity in the workplace of gender expression, of race, of sexual orientation, has better results. These organizations that embrace diversity make more money if we're focusing on bottom line, again, being the definition of success. Why? I don't know. I can make certain assumptions. There's a diversity of thought. There's more of a push and pull. There's more filtering of ideas so that you make sure that you get the the best idea, rather than one or a group of people who look alike or think alike saying, let's just do this, let's double down. And you can go far in one direction, but it could be the wrong direction. So that's what I would say. JP, let me throw it back to you. I don't want to completely.
Oh, no worries. All right. Because I see we are approaching time here. So another question for you. So this is from Nick. Do you think setting goals and living your life like a checklist can hinder from reaching your full potential?
Well, it depends on who you are, right? Setting goals and checklists, I do that often. But I also, again, don't get down on myself if I don't achieve a goal, or if I don't check off everything on my checklist. There needs to be grace with ourselves. We are not robots. And I know that is tough, because from a young age, you're taught, go to school and basically prepare yourself to be an employee, become an employee, and then look at yourself as this individual who is here to be productive and profitable. And then you make money and maybe you get a house and so forth, right? The issue with that is we are not employees. We are not just students. We are not just professors. We are people. So being gracious with yourself to be a person, knowing that you will change, change. They say change is the only constant. It's definitely one of them, and embracing it and understanding that you have the ability to revise, or going back to the point of this talk, reinvent yourself. Yeah.
Mateo, thank you for that. I just wish time was endless.
Because I just I'm putting my Instagram and my email.
Oh, please do.
I am not looking to be one and done with Lemoyne by any means, where I'm like, I'm out.
We're not looking for that either.
Yeah, I want this to be an ongoing dialogue. If you email me, I will respond. Of course, my email is packed, but I will get back to you. I am on Instagram quite often, and I do these talks on Fridays at 1 p.m. So, you can find me there if you want. But JP, yes.
Mateo, no, just thank you. Thank you so very much. I'm going to turn this over to our wonderful dean.
So Mateo, once again, you're a first. This is the first combined Diversity Central and Madden lecture. It's the first time we've had over 400 registrations.
Wow.
And it's the first time almost an hour and a half in 250 people are still with us.
Wow.
So well done.
Shout out to them for still being here.
Yeah. Well, I think that has something to do with you. We have 10 minutes. You can use it any way you wish. And I also want you to know that the people that left probably have 50 texts. I've got to go teach a class at 5 o'clock, et cetera. So they didn't want to leave. Still be over 300.
And no, I appreciate it. If I got 10 minutes, let me answer some questions. All right. From Anonymous, where on Long Island are you from? Fellow Long Islander here and resonated with growing up with the idea that success is just all about the hustle and making money. Oh yeah, we know, Long Islanders. I mean, New Yorkers in general, in terms of New York State, even though I know that we're all different in different places, are all about that hustle. How do you now define success? Well, where am I from on Long Island? I'm from Suffolk County, and I'll say I went to Bellport High School, if you know where Bellport is. How do I define success now? To me, success is defined as living into your purpose. And again, only you will know what your purpose is through just unflinching self-honesty and self-examination of why am I here? Why do I exist? Why am I here? What am I doing here, right? Through asking yourself that question, your purpose will reveal itself to you, I believe. So where I am right now in my life is my purpose is to turn my ideas into reality to positively impact other people. And through writing this book, through being able to speak with people, I feel as though I'm living into that purpose. So I feel as though I am in some ways, successful at times. But I'm also open to the fact that my ideas of success and purpose will likely change. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but maybe in 5 years. If I'm lucky, I will change and have evolved and grown even more through learning more from other people and myself. So thank you for that. Anonymous attendee. Andrew Joseph, I think that could be Dean Joseph's son. If so, what up, AJ? Are any of the characters in Black Buck based on people your life, or anyone you have come across in your career? Any of the characters from someone? Some people in the book are inspired by a couple people. Most of them I don't know. They're based off of, maybe some well-known folks. And then there are other characters who are composite characters of types of people who I've either encountered or the type of individual that many of us know. And in terms of, are there characters based on people one-to-one? Well, AJ, what I'll say is that that's between me and people who think the characters are based on them. Yeah. All right. Question from, Zach Beckusen said, love the Chadwick Boseman cover on your shelf. And I see that someone else had a question about Chadwick Boseman. They said that they see, where was that? It was, I see Chadwick behind you.
Didn't even have an influence on your book. I think that was the question. Yeah,
Chadwick himself didn't have an influence on my book, but he is someone who was and is inspiring for me, not just because he played such a variety of roles with such vigor, but also in how, not how he died, but how he lived, right? Chadwick, for those who know, he endured great suffering, but he still gave us his life and his art. And he also didn't really talk about it all that often. I think maybe because he didn't want to be defined by it. So that, for me, I'm not saying that this is how we all have to do it, but he was just so tuned into helping other people that that inspires me. And that's why I have that Time magazine. I actually got that when Black Panther was coming out, and I thought that it was going to be a special film. So I'm just so happy that I was able to keep that. Okay, Shannon said, so I understand what you're saying on how to stay positive and don't be too down on yourself, but what do you do when you hit that low? Great question. Let's be practical here. When I personally hit that low, I go into nature, because I feel as though nature has so many answers for us if we were willing to listen. I go for a walk in nature. I breathe some fresh air. I also tell people, I tell those closest to me, I'm struggling. I'm having a tough time with XYZ. I'm worried about XYZ. Knowing that these people won't hold that against me and will not judge me. So I would say that it's important to have this foundation of a support system, even if it's just one person who you can always call, who you can always text. Sometimes those manic or obsessive texts where you're sending them 10 texts in a row and they're not going to say, what's wrong with you? So that's, those are just two things that I do, Shannon, when I hit that low. And also just reminding myself that a low isn't a static place, right? It's a place that I can get out of, and hopefully, I can rely on a few people or a few strategies to get out of it. music is medicinal. Just, watching a TV show or consuming some form of art to get out of a rut. Yeah.
Mateo, we have to give time to another philosopher who's going to talk about future events. And
Pass it over. Let's pass it over.
But I'm hoping that one of the future events is you.
All right.
Come back in the fall, my friend. This has
Thank you.
been tremendous. Tabor, are you there? Dr. Fisher.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm just like, completely like absorbing all this and loving it all. I got to hear Mateo earlier today and then now again, and I've just really, really appreciated it. I just want to thank you, Mateo, for your energy, your confidence, and for coming and sharing so graciously with us. I wrote down your email. I'll be in touch. And I also want to thank Jim and the Madden School for working behind the scenes to make this all happen, and all the people who work behind the scenes. I'll give a shout out to Stefan, who I know is instrumental to these things, and to the creative writing program that helped plan this. So there's just so many people behind it, and I just really appreciate that we can do these kinds of things at Le Moyne. I do want to just share this. This is our next Diversity Central. It will be on April 7th. You know that every month, the first Wednesday of the month, we return to thinking about diversity because it's so central. And Mateo, I've loved what you said about how it's important not just to have a kind of performative, oh, we like diversity here, but to really mean it, that people are welcome. And it's something that Le Moyne is striving for. I don't think we can claim we're there. I don't know if anyone can claim they're there, but we really seriously want to get there. And we're looking forward to Patricia Clark from SUNY Oswego, who's going to talk to us about how diversity intersects with language and certain words that have, just a fraught history and all sorts of purposes now. So I wanted to make sure people saw that. You can see that you can register by just going to lemoyne.edu/Patricia Clark. So that's, you can even remember that one. At the same time, I'm going to throw in the chat another link. This is for the community hub got it. Okay. To everybody, all of these settings. Got it. Okay, there it is. Community Hub is bringing Decca Dansel to come and talk about the I-81 project and how that's going to impact our community. And they wanted me to just mention that's upcoming, and that link there would get you the registration link for that talk. That is on the 29th of April at 4 o'clock. And the title is Poverty in Syracuse and the Potential for Racial and Economic Justice Through the I-81 Project. So those are some. We have tons of upcoming events, but those are just the two that we're plugging for now. And thank you guys so much for being here. This has been an amazing event.
It has been an amazing event. And Mateo, I think we should let you say the final word.
Thank you. Be well, be healthy, be safe. I just appreciate everyone's time, attention, and energy. Much love. And I hope that this is not the last time that we've seen each other. I'm just very grateful for everyone. Thank you.
We're grateful for you, and we're grateful for Superficial. And our friends from Louisiana had to drop off. Superficial, do you want to say one more thing to us? You were awesome. You were anything but superficial.
Oh yeah, satirical name, but I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thanks for sharing that energy, and I hope that y'all got something. If anything, got inspired, motivated, or de-escalated in these tough times. I appreciate it.
Okay. Good night, everybody.